guys, we are back again with Kicking Cancer Cares on KSLM Radio, 104.3 FM and 1220 AM. And if you are looking to sponsor our show or want to or see what that looks like, then go ahead and email me or me.
Either one. Probably you're
Amanda at kslm.news. And we'll send you the information on what that may possibly look like.
Well, I'm glad that we have all these wonderful guests in the studio with us. And,
yes.
Dr. Isaksen's insights are always so valuable in telling your own story. But I know that during the commercial break, Elana, you were actually asking us some questions about being a chiropractor. You want to kind of elaborate on that again for a second?
Yeah, I was really struck, Dr. Isaksen, by how you noticed your own lump and then observed it growing. And since you're a chiropractor and you're very hands-on, I wondered if in the past 10 years since you've recovered, if you have ever spotted a lump in a patient since then and referred them for further testing.
Yes, because it is a physical medicine where we're actually contacting and touching the patient. I do get to see or feel a lot of things that not a lot of other people would see or feel. And because of that, yes, there have been multiple lumps and bumps that I have recommended they go and get checked. The biggest thing is that a lot of times they are benign and they're nothing to worry about, but when they start to change is when it's a big deal. And so that's one of the blessings that I have, being able to touch someone's spine. Oftentimes I remember someone by their back. In fact, I used to joke that I would see somebody out in public and I couldn't remember who they were. I'd tell them to turn around so I could feel their back. As soon as I could touch their back, I'm like, oh yeah, this is James, I know you. So that's kind of the joke that I say. But yes, being able to contact and touch that person's body and feel those lumps, and if they change, that's usually when the worry starts. And so being able to recommend, yes, hey, this is changing, you need to get that checked immediately, is sort of a big deal. Mm-hmm. And we have caught a couple of cancers that way,
wow.
as well as we've caught some other cancers in different ways as well. But yes, it's always good for us to, eyes wide open, be aware that these are possibilities, and when I see something, say something.
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
Well, I think to see something and say something is a perfect segue into your husband's story. Matt?
Yes.
So if you want to elaborate on Matt's situation.
Sure. Yeah, I'd be happy to, because it makes me so happy whenever I get to meet someone who had sarcoma and survived, because Matt had sarcoma and didn't. And I just want more and more people to know about it. So Matt was a super healthy, active 54-year-old, and he had some back pain, lower back pain, and he also had a muscle knot in his hamstring. And the back pain got a little worse. He thought it was because of, how much driving he was doing, and so he contacted his doctor and described it and asked, do I need to come in or can you just refer me? And so he got referred to it's a type of specialist called a physiatrist. It's an MD who specializes in nerves and muscles. And because it sounded like a herniated disc, that doctor, assumed that it was, and, said it would take time to heal. And over the course of 10 months, Matt kept on checking in. The lump in his leg was getting bigger. He was worried about it. Finally, after 10 months of this care, he went back to his primary care provider, who felt his leg and said, that's not a muscle knot, it's a tumor, and it's probably cancerous. And so he got Matt connected with the sarcoma team at OHSU. And so Matt had a MRI done that said, yeah, this looks like a cancer. He had a biopsy done, and then he had a chest CT done to make sure that it had not spread to his lungs. And we went in September 25th and learned that it was a type of sarcoma called pleomorphic rhabdomyosarcoma, which really just means a type of sarcoma in the muscle. And we learned that it had spread to his lungs, and it was a really, really bad situation. So that was September 25th. In the intervening time, he had surgery. He had a tumor that was approximately 8 pounds removed from his leg. He was able to, recover, go back to the hospital, had 1 round of chemo, but it had spread so much in his lungs that he had a lot of trouble breathing. He died November 2nd. He died 38 days after diagnosis. And this is something that should never, ever happen to anybody. Nobody, it just shouldn't happen. And so not long after that, that's when, the pandemic began and everyone was in lockdown, and I was this new widow. And I got in touch with the Northwest Sarcoma Foundation, and they're a wonderful organization. They're headquartered in Seattle, but they serve the 5-state region of the Pacific Northwest. And working with them, we set up a chat group for other people who have lost someone to sarcoma, and then there were chat groups for patients who are currently fighting it, caregivers. And I just became really involved with them. And through them, I realized that kind of my purpose in life is to spread the word about sarcoma, and especially to get people to know the warning signs and be assertive about getting diagnosis. So even though it's rare, and I have that there's 17,000 cases diagnosed each year, anybody who has a lump that's the size of a golf ball needs to have an MRI. Not anything less. You need an MRI so that you can rule out sarcoma. Like you said, most likely it's a benign growth and nothing that you need to do anything about. But if it is sarcoma, you need to act quickly so that you can have an outcome like Dr. Isaksen and not an outcome like Matt. So any lump that's the size of a golf ball, that's, what is that? It's like 1.5 inches. Mm-hmm. I'll never look at a golf ball the same way again.
I bet.
But also just paying attention to your body like you did. So if you notice a lump anywhere, pay attention to it. Women are taught all the time, like you need to do self-checks and, checks for breast cancer. But really, any human being needs to pay attention to any lump that they find on their body and keep track of it. Sarcoma, it doesn't have to be a painful lump, like just in your case. It may or may not be painful.
Especially if it's growing.
Yeah.
Because, like in Dr. Isaacsen's case, it was small and then all of a sudden it got a lot bigger, but it wasn't painful.
Right.
So we're aware of our own bodies. If you notice that this is not the way it used to be, then there might be an issue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The one thing you did say that I would have a question on, this might be even a good question for Dr. Isaacsen. I know a lot of insurance companies are really leery to do MRIs because they're expensive. If I went in and said, I have this lump that's gotten bigger, how much do I have to convince my insurance company to do that MRI? You might have some thoughts on this.
So if you've got a history of anything scary, they're much more prone to approve that. Without the history, if you just have it, more than likely they'll order an ultrasound first. Ultrasounds are not as accurate as an MRI, but they will sort of rule in or rule out, get rid of some of the ambiguity. And if it's something that's really benign, it'll be obvious. If it's something that's kind of borderline and they're not sure, then they'll have enough evidence they can say, hey, this MRI or this ultrasound is inconclusive, they need an MRI. So sometimes you have to jump through the hoops to get there, but if you jump through the right hoops, you can get there.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
Well,
no, that's a good question, and that's part of the mission. Really, is the more that people know, the more that primary care providers know about it over time. And policymakers would start.
You mentioned the support group that you're a part of.
Mm-hmm.
So what I do know is, on our YouTube channel, we've got a lot of views now. If someone wanted to be part of, they wanted to reach into that group, how would they do it? Who would they contact? Because Ashley can add that to the YouTube.
Yeah.
Find that.
So I sent to Ashlie some QR codes that people can use to click on directly to get involved in the support groups, and also to learn more about the Northwest Sarcoma Foundation. In addition to trying to raise awareness and to help people have the information that they need to justify getting an MRI. And, I think if people wanted to download this flyer from the Northwest Sarcoma Foundation, it can help with asking for an MRI and get, some of the backup data. But the other thing that gives me hope and that I want to support is research into treatments for sarcoma, because it is so rare. And that is one thing that the Northwest Sarcoma Foundation does, is it funds it with small grants. They're just $10,000 grants to researchers to add on to the research they're doing. So this year they just awarded money to someone who's looking at rhabdomyosarcoma. That was the type that Matt had, and looking at immunotherapies. Immunotherapies are the tools that are just starting to be used in other kinds of cancers to help your own immune system fight the tumor cells. So it's not really chemotherapy, it's different. And what this researcher is doing is looking at like an extra molecule booster that would make it actually work in rhabdomyosarcoma. And I'm thinking about, the person you heard about with angiosarcoma, where surgery and chemo and all these things might be too dangerous. My hope is that in my lifetime, we're going to start seeing immunotherapies for sarcoma that spare the rest of the body, keep a person safe, but really get this cancer, because it's so nasty. It's anywhere. And I think that's the hope that we all have for all of the cancers, is that we can start using the immune system.
Well, you remember that when his skin cancer started moving, do you remember the treatment they opted to use for Russ? Was immunotherapy.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Russ is the guy that we have supported here, and once his skin cancer, his melanoma started moving up his leg, they used immunotherapy to attack it internally versus the chemotherapy. So awesome. So it sounds like the Northwest Sarcoma Society is really doing what they can for a very rare cancer to try to get awareness out there.
Yeah, and then it's up to all of us. I was saying to you earlier, Baron, that when Matt was, feeling this pain in his leg, at one point he joked around and said, "Oh, maybe it's cancer," and we were both like, there's no such thing as cancer in a muscle. We didn't know.
Right.
Now we know, and it's up to all of us and everyone who's listening to spread the word, so that if you have a friend or a relative who says, I have this nagging pain that just won't go away, or I have a lump that just won't go away, we can say, hey, get it checked out. Yeah.
Absolutely.
If you know, you know.
Well, and that's so perfect, because when people go to our YouTube channel, our show is You Don't Know What You Don't Know.
You truly don't.
You don't know what you don't know.
Knowledge
so bringing
is power.
awareness to this is just such a powerful part. I know this is the first time that Dr. Isaksen has heard this story. Any thoughts coming right off the bat with Matt's story?
The thing that you ended there with, that a long-standing thing that's not going away, it's just always nagging pain, it dovetails perfectly with what I'm always telling my patients. If you've got something that's bothering you, it's okay to give it 24, even up to 72 hours, at most a week. If it's not resolving or improving within that time period, it's time to get it checked. Years ago, there was a dentist in town who used to say, if you're waiting till it's hurt, you're waiting too long.
Yes.
Well, that's for your teeth, but that's true about literally everything else. If you're waiting on your body to start hurting, if you're waiting for this lump to start hurting before you do something about it, but it's consistently there, it's time to get it checked. Give it a couple of days. It's okay. We have aches and pains that happen. We work out. We get sore. You fall. You hurt. If it's not improving, if it's not getting better, going away within 72 hours a week at most, it's time to get it checked. And whether you start with a chiropractor or a naturopath or your medical doctor, or it doesn't matter where you start. Get started somewhere.
Yeah.
And if it's not something that I can deal, like I can't treat cancer, but I can refer you to somebody who can. Go to any physician and start with them. And if they can't take care of you, they can send you someone who can.
Yes.
Well, I know that on a personal note, again, Dr. Andrew is my chiropractor for a number of years, and if people go to kicking-cancer.org to our website, there's actually a button that says Request Help.
Okay.
And I got a request for someone here in Salem area that is dealing with cancer, and the mother wound up reaching out to me because the daughter's the one that lives here. Well, the daughter's at a point now where they're giving it until April.
Oh.
And the doctor's like, if we see you in June, it'll be a miracle, but they made it till April. Well, I'm just so glad that we've got these resources like Scott Mills, who's been on our show.
Yes.
Well, she's at a point where she's looking at palliative care and hospice. And so I'm like, okay, we need to talk to Scott Mills. He can kind of educate you on what that all means when it comes to hospice.
Yeah.
Well, the mom told me that they were very open to some more natural approaches like chiropractic and massage therapy. And so I know that Dr. Ike is going to be talking with their family as well.
Good, yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Because when you're at a point where Western medicine is like, we are out of options, so just go home and live your best life until you die, why can't I connect them with Dr. Isaksen with some more options? What's it going to hurt, right? And so he's going to be talking to the mom, and we just wanted to create this community of resources when it came to cancer to bring awareness to it.
Like Mickey Miser, like the go-to teams. Yeah, where you've got people you can refer them to help them get them back on a right path.
And I think the key is something that Dr. Isaksen said is if it doesn't feel right, if it hasn't been like that in the past, then go get it checked. And and he's not an oncologist, but he's used to touching and feeling, and he knows that this is not what it's supposed to be, and then he can refer you to someone who can deal with it directly.
I think it's hard for men in particular. Like my husband, Bo, he's got his fear is cancer. And so because of that, if something's wrong, the last thing he wants to do is go to a doctor to hear that he's got cancer. And it's like, but you've got to go get it looked at to know what's going on. So us wives and women have to really push men sometimes, and even ourselves. We put ourselves on the back burner, I think, more than anything because we're tending to the household and making sure everybody else meets their appointments and whatnot. But yeah, I think just going and putting pride aside and going to that appointment and checking stuff out is huge.
Mm-hmm. Well, you want to give you some time. Is there some more stuff on the Northwest sarcoma that you'd like to bring up?
Well, in addition to funding research and having those support groups on Zoom, we also send care packages to patients who are being hospitalized and treated for sarcoma. And I love that you're supporting the broader circle of cancer, and that's so important. And then I also like that there is something specific for sarcoma.
Yeah.
Because it is so rare, and it's a small community. We have a big sarcoma center at OHSU. There's a couple of big sarcoma centers in Seattle, and that's kind of the regional draw. And so it's nice to create a community. When we have our Dragon Slayer walks, which we have in Portland, Boise, Spokane, and Seattle so far. We'll have to add Salem one of these days.
That's awesome.
But when we have our Dragon Slayer walks, it's a way to build community among people who have are currently fighting sarcoma or people who have fought it and won, like you.
Yeah.
And that is so important. It's a source of hope for people who are currently fighting sarcoma to be able to meet survivors and hear their stories, and also for other people who have been caregivers to share their support. It's really a very meaningful community building.
Hope is huge. Hope is what keeps you hanging on and pushing forward, so that a community support, a support system, hope. Those are all so big.
Yeah.
I think they're more important than people realize.
Yeah, there's a new phrase that people are going to hear me saying more throughout this next year. And I think it's really true. Hope is not a plan, but I formed Kickin'Cancer to provide you hope with a plan.
Yes. Yes.
We wanted to give you a plan. What do you do? I mean, we need hope. Don't get me wrong. But hope's not a plan. So we're here to provide some inspirational stories, to give you some hope that there's a way out through this thing, but also to give you a plan on how to deal with it, like eat your pineapples.
Yes.
On your pizza, by the way.
Yeah.
Well, and get your diagnosis. Information is not a plan either, but it should be part of everyone's plan.
It helps you create one.
Information.
Yeah.
Before you
So, well, I appreciate. Go ahead. You have a thought here.
I was just going to say that, if you're making a plan without enough information, your plan's going to fail.
Right.
The more information you have, the better plan you can make. So getting that diagnosis sooner rather than later provides you with a much better ability to plan for that future and to find the right treatment for you. If you're waiting and you're waiting and you're waiting because maybe the pain will go away, maybe it'll go away, maybe it'll go away, and it's not, you're waiting too long, and you're taking your options, which may have been this many, and narrowing that window down to only a very few options, and eventually there's no window of options at all. So don't delay. Get diagnosed, get checked. Don't put it off because you think it'll go away. If it's not going away, it needs to be checked.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
There's the big message right there.
Yeah, I love it.
That's the big message right there. Well, I have a fun timeline update for you.
Okay.
What we've been doing is walking our listeners through really what happened with Kickin'Cancer from those early days with Dr. Isaksen, and it would have been, it was April the 29th of 2022, and there was this 7-foot gentleman in town who decided to buy a basketball franchise. His name's Jason Conrad, and it was his first year with the Salem Capitals. And I just came to him, I said, what do you think about the idea of having a cancer awareness basketball game? Which he was all in favor of the idea.
Oh, yeah.
And so we had, that first year, we had a game where we just invited survivors that were in the crowd to come down. They got recognized on the court during halftime. Well, this year will be the 4th year that we're doing a cancer awareness basketball game.
Hey, that's awesome.
But it's gotten even better over the course of the last several years. So that was the year that I met Jason Conrad, and that was our first cancer awareness basketball game, was April the 29th, 2022. But this year we have 3 businesses that are coming together to sponsor a jersey.
Okay.
So they're only going to wear this jersey for one game, and it's going to be for the cancer awareness game. And then afterwards, the next week, we're actually going to have a big party. We're going to auction the jerseys off.
I love that.
So if you would like, that'll be a fundraiser for us.
Yeah.
But we thought, well, we don't want a pink jersey. I mean, I have no problem with pink. My sister's got breast cancer, but we're about all the colors.
All of them.
So the front of it is going to be a ribbon, and it's going to start small and then gradually get bigger with each of the colors as the ribbon progresses out.
Yeah.
And right in the middle is going to be their ox, because they're mascots. So the ox is going to be breaking through the jersey.
Okay,
in
yeah.
that center.
Through
and then
the
over
ribbon.
here, it'll be the donkey kicking. And since it's his jersey, he wants to write Kickin'Cancer the donkey, but he's going to cross out the word donkey and put ass. I said, hey, they're your jerseys. You can write whatever you want on these jerseys.
Right.
And then there'll be 3 businesses plus our logo. So there's the 2 front panels on the bottom and 2 front panels on the back of the bottoms.
Yeah.
Well, I said, if you're going to put logos on the pants, then you have to put our logo on the back.
On the butt.
Because then we are literally kicking cancer in the ass.
Yes. I love it.
But that's
awesome.
First year, it was just Jason and I working together to try to bring awareness. And over the next 3 years, more and more people. What was really interesting, Dr. Robison, is last year we invite people from the crowd to come down. And there's a gal that comes to Chamber every week. Her name is Barbara McReal. And she represents the Elsinore Theater. And she came out of the crowd. And I had no idea she was a survivor.
Yeah.
You know? But each of them, we take the microphone, we let them say their name.
Yeah.
So they say, my name is so-and-so, and I beat whatever cancer, right? But to allow these survivors to come out of the stands, to come on the court, to be recognized during a professional basketball game, it was just awesome.
Well, not only that, but to look around and see new friends and people that you can connect with and relate with. And then also know that you're not standing there alone.
Yeah.
So that's huge. I think it was more than just I think you probably touched their lives and hearts more than you realized.
I hope so.
A little bit.
I hope so.
I know so.
Yeah. It was really fun this last year. The year that just happened is we didn't have time to create this jersey. What we did have time to do is let the players wear a shirt.
Okay,
as
yeah.
their warm-up.
Yeah.
Well, I had a whole bunch of the purple ones for Faye left over.
Oh, perfect.
And
she
so,
loved the Salem Capitals.
Yeah, so we had a business step up. He says, I'll pay for them. So he paid for all the jerseys or all the T-shirts, and then every player they're just wearing a shirt until it's their time to go on. So they're all wearing this purple face shirt.
Yeah.
And you can see them all on the sidelines. And if you're watching YouTube right now, there's going to be some pictures popping up of these professional basketball players wearing these purple shirts.
That's awesome.
So but I'm really excited. It's going to be, the game is April 11th this year.
Okay.
April 11th is a cancer awareness game. And Jason has agreed that if you are a survivor, we're going to get you a code so you can go to the game for free.
I love that. Perfect.
And then we're going to have a Kicking Cancer in the Ass shirt on the court this year.
Okay, sounds good.
Love it.
Well, thank you both so much for coming in and sharing your stories. That was awesome. So thank you. And we will be back next week
As the movement continues.